All right, welcome back. I'm within about an hour and a half of finishing day one. It's an hour and a half worth of racing time anyways, so we're going to get going here. This is Diamond Jubilee, which I believe is high school girls quads. So let's see what's going on here. And I'm going to, this here is, judging by the outfit, that is probably Lee. And I don't know who this is, but we will see soon enough. And there we go. All right, off the starts. And I'm just going to watch the start here, and then I will be back. All right, so we're not too far off the start here. And as we come into the catch, we're going to look at stroke seat here, just because I'm focusing on one person. But they are a little hesitant at the catch. And again, we see that swoop catch where the blades kind of go up and it makes you a little slow. You miss that timing of the catch. So let's go forward here a little bit. And what we see is, let's look at the shaft of the blade. As they come up, we see, look, the shaft goes up. We see the hands go down, boom, as they're finishing that square. Notice as the hand rolls over, that blade, that handle goes down, pushes the blades up. So everybody kind of gets to that point here. See, same thing, dropping the hands there, right? Look here, boom, drop in the hands as we come into the catch, right? Let's look here, and not as much, but still a little bit, but not as much, which actually is why her blade isn't as high as the others. But now we're gonna look here through this catch point. That point where the hands are dropping is actually the point where the hands should probably be lifting to place the blade directly into the water, rather than give the blade room so that it can get put into the water after you've squared it properly. Because right now we need to give the blade some room to square. So as we're lowering the hands, that gives the room here. But if we'd already had the hands lower, we'd have the room already. We could just square and then lift straight in. And what this means now is that, watch here, we're just sitting there. See, there's no drive coming from these legs here. Boom, boom. We got basically two frames here where we're now trying to place the blade into the water. But we're not really doing any driving. We're not really getting much engagement here. And this is for all of them. They're just kind of sitting there, not doing much. And while you're sitting there, that's at the catch point. So we've just thrown all of our combined weight against the momentum of the boat. We've brought the boat to the slowest point, the greatest reduction in speed that we have. And we're just sitting there now. We're letting that boat continue on at that low rate of speed. If we get rid of all these dead frames, and right here, instead of dropping the hand there, we lift, lift, lift to place into the water. Because once we start lifting here, look, watch your hand. We're looking again just at strokesy here, just because, so we're all sort of focused on the same thing. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 frames to get that blade into the water. If those hands were already here at this point here, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's basically where they're raising those blades up. We could get rid of that raise. We just change that into the lift. Boom, the blades are now buried at this point here, and we can instantly start that drive. That means that we are through these frames here now. All those frames would have already been full compression drive, pushing it away, building on that speed. So this is an area where I think that they're losing a lot of speed, a lot of engagement, and more so they're allowing the boat to travel at a low rate of speed rather than taking the catch and picking that speed back up. So you want to be very cognizant of how you approach the catch, how you set the handle heights through the release, how you prepare coming up into the catch, and that we don't see that push down of the hands. We just see a nice lift to place that blade straight in so we can maximize it. And that's maximize the length at the catch and maximize the amount that we are picking that boat up after the drop in speed. All right, so here comes Lee as we're bringing it further down the course here. We see a little discrepancy on the blades here, right? See here, we got some differences in the way that we're progressing up the slide. But for the most part, they look pretty decent. Here, this looks fairly open through the release. And if we're looking at the timing, that's not bad timing. That's not bad timing. Right, we see the blades separate just a little bit here. Get a little too close here. Not a huge thing. Not a huge thing. 3-seat, I would say get a little more layback, right? let the shoulders pass, open it up. It looks like she's cutting her stroke just a little bit short through the release. See here, she's still very forward, right? This here, we've got the layback, squeeze these shoulder blades together. This here's a little bit rounded. Again, sit tall, push that spine through to the belly button. Open up the chest, squeeze the muscles here around that spine. That's going to serve very well to kick that boat off just a little bit extra. Now, we're looking at stroke seat here as stroke seat comes in. I like this push. Look at this. She actually does a pretty good job here of holding this angle pretty decently, getting good leg drive. That arm could hang a little bit looser, but see, she's holding that forward angle pretty nice, I think, and now she's going to come through, but we see the arms bending. I'd like to see the arms hold off just a little bit longer, let the layback occur before the hands go, and this is what we're going to see from stroke seat. And we're just going to stop it here. So now, she takes the catch, and look, the arms are already taking the catch a little bit. They're taking that weight. And as we come through, we see that arm start to pull. So now we've got an issue where the legs are bent, the arms are bent, and the shoulders haven't yet passed the hip. So let these arms hang, right? Just let them hang, relax. You can see the tension here in the shoulders. See that tension in the shoulders? Even taking the catch, it's a little bit of a tight shoulder catch. Grabbing it with the arms, pulling. That means the weight is on the biceps here. We don't want that. See, look at this. And now notice all this tension because we're not just laying back against it and letting the arms hang and then using the big muscles to draw it in. This is pulling with the arms, and that's going to force the tension because the arms themselves are not strong enough to really do it. So we need to, the body needs to brace somewhere so it tenses, right? We don't want to do that. We want to let these shoulders get very open. Push the shoulders back past the torso. Use those lats, those traps, etc. And draw that handle to the body a little bit more. So again, that's just something that's you're going to wear out a little faster as we go down the waterway. Overall, though, these guys are looking pretty good. These guys are looking pretty solid. But there are, as always, there's refinements that can be made, right? Where you can find little bits of speed here and there that aren't going to cost you any more energy. They're just going to give you that speed. They're going to stop any kind of sappage that you may have. All right, so we're just going to watch these guys roll along, and they are getting, they're notably behind the other crew, right? This isn't a super tight race. But if we watch how these guys are coming up that slide through the recovery, they're definitely kind of rushing it up. To me, they're a little hectic trying to get into that next stroke. And this isn't about rate. This isn't about, you're overrating. It's about how you approach the catch. So we're just going to hit play here. And we can see here, as they come out, they kind of, right here, they kind of launch up. Here, they launch up. Here, they launch up, right? And we can see that especially with bow seat. Right, watch how she comes here and then zoom. Here, zoom. And there's not really a point where they just do the extension of the arms. They pivot over the hips and allow that boat to travel underneath them and then let the catch come to them. They're rushing up to try and take the catch rather than letting themselves relax through the recovery and let the catch come to you. And what I mean by the catch come to you is that boat still is moving this way here, right? If you come up that slide, in a nice relaxed fashion, you let all the muscles in your body have their moment of rest and relaxation and recovery. That boat is still traveling towards you effectively. You're coming up the slide, yes, but you're just being a little softer about it. You're not racing back up to get it. And if you race up, you don't give yourself that time to breathe, not literally to breathe, but your body to just relax and recover. If you do that, you don't have enough time to recover, and the muscles will wear out. And then you're chasing that feeling again, that rhythm. And you don't want to do it. You don't want to do it. So what I would do for them is I would probably have them do some soft approach drills where you kind of come up the slide to half or three-quarter slide normally, and then just really almost shut it down and float into the catch and really try to feel everything relax for that moment. You don't have to do those drills at high intensity, but you would want to get some intensity in there, especially as you get better and better at them, just so you get that feeling of changing and softening the approach, if that makes sense. So that's one thing that I definitely see these guys are going to cost themselves some speed, because the more you race into that catch, the more you're going to put weight on those foot plates. And it's like that you jump on the scale, right? When you land on the scale, if you land on it hard, bang, that scale's going to go very high. If you land on the scale and you absorb it, use your legs as kind of shock absorbers, you can mitigate some of that, and that number's not going to be as high. There's not that kind of mitigation really going on here that I can see. All right, so this is Cambridge and Edinburgh B. I'm not sure which event it is, so let's find out. But we are going to see something here. Okay, Prince Albert, right? Student men's 4 with Cox. Okay, Cox 4. We're going to watch Cambridge, and when we talk about just hammering it off the start and being really focused on pulling and rushing through the start, we're going to see an example of that over here in the Cambridge boat. So we're just going to watch them. I'm going to make sure it's muted. And we watch them. There, see right there. Now we say, oh, that's just a crab. But, let's see here, where's that? Okay, I think it's this stroke here. There we go. So, we'll back up here. But things like this tend to happen when we're rushing through, when we're, especially off starts, right? Because people do get a little hectic off starts. But when we see this, and when we see crabs in general, I will say, see over there, the blades get trapped in the water because we start trying to cut corners and we start feathering the blade in the water a little bit rather than getting that full extraction. And some of the other videos that I've talked about where I've highlighted crews that really are very patient off the start, you see the blades fully extract, feather nicely, and then move away, and it almost looks slow. It almost looks like they're going through that stroke in slow motion because they're taking pains to do every step properly and make sure that nothing bad goes wrong. We want to really, really focus on that, because here, if the blade gets caught in, if we start to feather a little early, we can really get trapped. There's going to be a lot of weight on the end of that blade. Then we try to force it out, and we start seeing that big cascade of water, right? What it might also be is because we're doing stuff aggressively, the feather might go a little too far, and now you're over feathered. It gets caught in the water again and pulled back down into the water, and then you have to fight it out again. So you don't really want to do that. Now, because this here is an A crew and a B crew, my inclination is that these guys here are going to probably settle down and take it, but you never know, right? So you never know how good a program's how good a school or club's program is. So there's a lot of B crews that can be incredibly fast. But we will see how this goes on. So this is just a highlight, right? Take those starts. You still want to be strong. You still want to be intense. You still want to be giving it your all to get that boat moving. But do not cut corners. Really make sure that you're being very precise and you're still following the proper mechanical motions of that stroke. You're just doing it in a start fashion, with each stroke building off the next rather than rushing to get the boat up to speed. Races are amazingly rarely won or lost off the start. They are far more often won and lost for the ensuing 1850, 1900 meters. So don't panic through it. Just get that boat moving, be intense, and make sure you get into that rhythm really, really nice and smooth. All right, here again, we see from Edinburgh, swoop catches. The blades are very close to the water, and then look, oh, up they come, boom. And look, all the blades now are basically at the same height, okay? Now this might be that the boat is off balance here as the blades come through close to the water, because we look like we might have a little more room there. I'm not sure, but boom, when we put those hands, look at this. All of a sudden the handles start getting closer to that center point, to the blades being parallel. The boat starts to stabilize. But what that does now is, because they've had to make that adjustment, they're at this position at the point of maximum compression, boom, right there. Now, are the blades in the water? No. This is pretty much where we want those blades to be getting, like, hitting that water and getting ready to freaking drive. So now we watch here, and they row these blades in, right? Look at how much the legs have gone. Look how much the legs have gone before we have full bury on these blades, right? We're well into the stroke, and we have some differences here, a little bit of differences, but still, boom, there, we got all the blades buried, and look at how much leg has gone. It's a big loss of power, big loss of speed. You want to make sure that you time that catch properly. It's very, very hard to do. It's amazingly hard to do. That's why there are so many poor catches and late catches. But if you can get it and your opponents can't, you are going to stand yourself in very good stead. Okay, so we're looking at this crew again, and as we look from head on, I actually don't mind what they're doing with the bodies here. This doesn't look too bad. Right, the boat, if we look at the hull of the boat is staying fairly stable. They come up the catch. They keep the bodies fairly in line. But look at this, and through the drive, that's pretty unified. We're seeing a little bit of separation on the blades here, but for the most part, this is not looking too bad, right? The one thing I don't like, and we're going to see it here as we widen out a little bit, I think, oh, maybe we needed to look earlier. Here we go. Okay, we're going to look here. Is here. For both of these blades, look at how they just lay down through that release. Right? There's no real extraction of the blade. The blade just sort of flops its way out of the water. It's not bad depth either, right? Maybe a little shallow. We might be pushing a little more water than we want, but not too bad. And now we see the face of the blade here, but this one here, look at this. We're not seeing the face of the blade. This is already feathering. And it's barely popped out, right? It's already feathering, and it's just laying down on the water. This one here comes up higher. We get better height on this one, but it's still very close to the water. And then look at how close this tip is, right to the water. You're inviting danger. And again, we see now they have to swoop those catches up. That's vertical motion. It's going to sap that horizontal speed. We want that horizontal speed. Positionally with the bodies, these guys here from head on look like they're pretty decent. I would get those blades up and feathered high. That's going to let you get out of that danger zone. It's going to make sure that you're not dragging the blades, that you're not having any extra slowdown on the boat that doesn't need to be there. And it's going to really set you in good standing, because now, as we see, look at how much the hands have to change to give those blades room to square. So that's vertical motion. We're going to cut that out. If we set that right from the release, we're going to already be in this position. Everything is going to maintain that nice horizontal positioning. And that means that we're going to be able to move straight into that catch rather than drop the hands, swoop the blades up, and miss the catch and end up kind of rowing it in, right? So we want to make sure that that is a little bit tighter for them. And sorry, that was Cambridge that we were looking at. That was Cambridge. I should have said that when I started there. Started that little bit of commentary. Seeing we're going to compare that to what we see in this boat here. And look at this. Look at the hand heights changing. Boom, hands are going down. These hands are coming up. The boat's going to go down onto starboard side here, because that's what happens when these hands lower and these hands raise. And then they have to lift up to try and row it in. Oh, and this is what I'm saying. If your boat is, shoot, I hate freaking when that stuff happens. Okay, I hit the wrong button. Okay. Look at this. There's some tension in here. Look at this, right? We're seeing some tension. Okay, making sure I'm hitting the right buttons here. And look at this. Through the release, look at the difference in blade angles. This guy here looks like he's not super comfortable at the release. He probably feels comfortable, but it's not really a strong position. Now, as we come here, we're off balance here at the start of the drive. That first part here is just getting that boat stable again. So till about here. You see that boat is... And what I'm looking at here is kind of this part of the boat, this line here, right? So boom, now we're kind of stable. Now we can really start putting power on there. But that first part is kind of finding that balance, because here we're off balance. The boat can't really have maximum power applied because we're in a very awkward position, right? Boom, now we get to about here. This is good, right? Now again, as we come to the release, it leans out towards port. So now we've lost it again. So we had probably about a quarter of the drive, quarter to a third of the drive, where we were really able to effectively add the most power possible. The rest of it is going to have some of that power being sapped because of the instability of the hull. So when you see something like that happening, this is where stability is such a key point. You have to have a good set point on that boat. If you don't, and if we were to compare that to this as we saw when they were coming at us, it was very stable, which just allows the power to focus on really pushing that boat horizontally down the water, which these guys were doing much better. All right, Princess Elizabeth Cup, we've got Abingdon here in the close lane, and I'm not sure who that crew is. We will probably see. But just a personal comment here, we're right at the start, I do not like seeing people with their heads looking down. Okay, now this might just be because he doesn't want to be looking at his coxswain's eyes. Some people find that a little bit disconcerting. But for me, when I was stroke seat, I'd always kind of look over their head and just try to look at the starting blocks or the person holding the boat, and just sort of really focus on keeping my head, my eyes up. When the head and eyes go down, the body will tend to drop as well, right? So keep that head up. It's going to help keep that body up. And as we get tired, you see a lot of times people's heads start to go down. That's when it becomes more and more important to really keep that chin up, those eyes up, because that's going to help pull that body up into a strong position. If we let fatigue sap that and the head comes down, the body will follow, and we will lose a lot of that power application and power transference from the legs out to the blade. Just a personal thing. Again, I haven't seen them row, so who knows how it's going to go. Okay, so we're right off the first few strokes here, but what I want to comment on here again with Abingdon is if we watch them off the start, watch again how they're very patient through those strokes. Watch how the blades come out sort of full face, then they feather, then they move away. This guy here needs to sit taller as well. Look at that rounded back. Push that spine forward. That's going to get much, because he looks like he's a tall dude, right? Those shoulders should probably be up around here. Right, that'll lengthen him out, it'll lengthen his stroke through the water, and it's going to save his back. So, but watch how patient they are with this, right? They come through, and let's watch it actually at like 0.5, okay? And watch how we see the face of the blade, and then the feather, and then the move away. Boom, we see face of the blade, face of the blade, face of the blade. Right? They're not rushing through this. Now we're going to back it up. We're going to watch it, pause it at full. See, look, there's no real rush through that extraction process. It's clean, it's sharp, it's pretty in time. They're locking it down. Okay. And we're going to watch this other boat here now. Watch off the first few strokes. And notice we're not seeing that same kind of cleanliness. Look at this. They're kind of getting a lot of wash out here from this side at least. So we're backing up. Here we go. See, we come through here and we're not really seeing any... See, look at that. That's a bit of a washout. That tells me they're probably trying to cut the corner a little bit. They're dropping the hands a little early, trying to get into that next one, right? This side here, not bad, but just not quite as clean, quite as clear. Now, it might be too that it's a green blade, so that's going to be harder to see than the pink. But it just looks like they're getting a little bit more engagement right through that release process, coming out a little cleaner and able to set those blades. We'll see how it progresses as they continue. All right, we're going to join a little bit in progress here. Look at as Abingdon comes down. 2-seat here, he needs to sit a little taller. Look at how he's kind of hunkering over that blade through the release, right? Look at this. Hopefully he stays on camera for this stroke here. See, look at this. Look at the tension in here. When I talk about distance between top of the shoulder, bottom of the ear, this is pretty nice, right? This isn't too bad, and we compare these guys because they're on the same side. Look at this, right? Pretty good distance here. Look at this. Pretty good distance. Or sorry, he's on the other side. So we'll look at this guy here, right? So this is still a little tense. But this guy's really shrugging up. He's got a very rounded back. And as we come to the... Look at this. Look at him. His head is going forward already. That is not a complete stroke. That is not keeping the layback, drawing the shoulders past the torso. That's not what we want to see, right? That is not what we want to see. We want to see, I'm going to look for it, this here's a little more open, right? Notice this here. Look, the chest is more open, the shoulders have moved back a little more. Boom, see there, the shoulder kind of moves back. Now he's falling forward a little bit, but still we see those shoulders going back. So 2-seat here needs to keep that lay back, complete the stroke, draw it into the body, and then begin the extraction and recovery process. Okay, so again, we're looking at these boats. We have sort of a pseudo side-by-side comparison here. And what we're looking here is when we look at this crew here, which I think was K-E-W, I believe. See how we've got blades buried here. We've got different timing at the entry here. This blade's still sticking out. Some of these other blades are already buried. So and subsequently, right, we have a lot of disparate application of force. Now we're going to come over here to the Abingdon crew, and we look at the unity of the blades here. So that's pretty good. Look at that, they all square up fairly even. Now we do have some disparate timing here at entry, but the blade heights was pretty good on the recovery. Look here now, these guys are back out of the water. We see instantly there's different heights on the blades. The boat is starting to, look at this here, the boat's wobbling. That tells us that bodies aren't necessarily all sitting tall, and we can see whoever this person here is, they're kind of leaning forward and reaching out rather than just keeping that body really upright over the center line of the boat. And that's going to cause that instability that we get at the catch, and that's why this boat sort of rolls around. We end up with port side going in, starboard side still out. So starboard side now, they're trying to row, but their blades aren't even in the water here for a lot of it. See, they're, boom, look at that. They're washing out here. They're pushing water rather than moving boat. Now we come back here. Abingdon has extracted. They're coming back up. Blades are fairly in alignment. Bodies are looking pretty tall. Blades square fairly evenly. Boom. This person again is late. It looks like that might be stroke seat. Now I would have to see if everybody else is early or if stroke seat is late. It is absolutely possible for stroke seat to be late. Okay, absolutely possible. A lot of people sort of say, oh, I'm stroke seat, I can't be late. But yes, you can. If you do not time your catch properly and everybody else does, you're going to be the one that's late. You've set the rhythm. Everybody else is rowing the rhythm. You're the one who's not actually getting the task done properly on time. So then we see these guys here come through again. They're extracting, right? And we see again disparate lines on these blades, disparate heights. This looks like they may hit the water pretty good though at the same time. So that's not bad. But again, we saw a little bit of pushing water here. Right? So we can see differences, right? This one here just looks a little tighter, a little more crisp. This one here, it's a little more ramshackle, right? A little more slipshod. We don't want to have those things happen. We want everything to be purposeful. Every movement has a purpose. If it doesn't, get rid of it. Okay? That's why when you see very, very good crews, they don't look like they're working hard because there's no extraneous movements. There's no extra stuff going on. They are just hitting their marks. They're doing what needs to be done, and there's nothing else. There's a lot of times there may not even be a ton of grimacing in those boats, because if they're grimacing and scrunching up their face with agony, that's energy that they could put into, that could be diverted into pushing the legs down a little harder. Okay, so that's why you see a lot of times very good crews, they look very calm, very almost passive, right? Very nonplussed. But that does not mean that they're not in a tremendous amount of pain. It just means that they are putting the energy where it needs to be, rather than into other things that are just showy or counterproductive. So here we are, start another PE. This is Princeton and Shrewsbury. So again, they've called attention. We see blade, 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 right? We see one blade here. I don't know about these ones, but these ones here are all buried. So just off this little bit here, I think these guys' attention to detail is just a little bit sharper right off the start. But again, they wouldn't have come here, Princeton that is, from the U.S., if they felt they were going to get knocked out in the first round. So they're probably going to be a fairly quick crew. Who knows? We will see how it goes. All right, so again, we're just going to watch here off the start. This is sort of just as they're getting going. Both these crews, again, do a decent job of completing these strokes, really getting those blades out clean. Look here, very clean on the Princeton crew. Here, maybe just a little bit more chaos and splashing on the Shrewsbury school, but these are both pretty decent starts. They made sure that the process was done properly, got nice, good, clean extraction, good grab on the water, good movement. So there you go. We'll see how it pans out as we head on down the course. All right, so we see a little bit of timing issues here as we're coming up up to the catch in the Shrewsbury boat. Not huge, but just a little bit. So we're going to watch this here. Here we go. Boom. See this here? Going in early. All right, 5 seats jumping the gun on 7. Again, I'd like to see how 7 and 8 are doing, but we're going to go to the next stroke here. And boom. In here. Now, I actually like 5 seat here. I like how 5 seat moves into his catch, because here see here, he's still compressing. He's still compressing. Boom, there. We see the compression while his blade is going towards the water. So this to me is actually a better catch than this one. But if you are doing a good catch motion and you're actually starting the lift of the hands as a person who's following for timing, timing is your responsibility. So what I would encourage this person to do is just be a little softer coming up that slide. You know you're going to probably jump be quicker than 7 seat at getting that blade buried. So you've got a little bit more time on that recovery. Just soften it up a little bit and let this guy go through his process. You do your process, and you'll still get in there with a pretty good catch, but you'll be in time and apply those forces together. See, again, a little bit early, right? And oh, look at this again. But again, this guy's doing pretty solid. He's still compressing as that blade is going to the water. So I like that. Yeah, I like that. I like that he's doing that. I don't like that he's not timing it properly so that he's going in ahead of 7 seat. And you can see it's a pretty consistent thing. He also tends to push the blade a little bit deep, so I would caution against that, and I would say just be a little softer with the placement of the blade. All right, looking at Princeton here, they are looking pretty solid. Right, they are looking pretty solid. I would say for this person, sit a little more center. See how they're leaning. Their head is kind of listing just a little bit, right? And here we see tension in these shoulders. Look at stroke seat. Look here, right? See how those shoulders are taking it? I would relax that a little bit. Look at how close that height is between the top of the shoulder and the bottom of the ear. Push those shoulders down, right? It's going to let you get a little more engagement from the muscles of the mid-back. Let the arms hang loose in the socket. That's going to give you better transfer of power to the end of the blade, and it's going to really sort of lengthen that application out through the entire stroke, because then once you've laid back, you'll still be able to use these big strong muscles, your lats, etc., to draw those shoulders past the torso and really squeeze that last bit of the stroke in towards the body. Okay, so we're just going to start it here. 3 seat, I think, needs to get a little bit more layback in this, especially for somebody who's so tall, right? Get a little more layback. That's going to really look at this guy here. Is another tall guy. He's got a little bit more layback. That's just going to give you a little bit longer time in the water, and that will prove very, very good for your crew over the course of the race. All right, so as they come towards us, we see pretty nice alignment here. Notice here, though, between these people, there's a little bit of difference, right, between bow forward. Look at how the bodies are kind of separating from the person ahead of them, right? So we're not seeing that same unity of body motion as we see in this boat here. It's not tremendous, right? It's not a huge thing, but look at this, especially 2 seat, 4 seat. They're kind of getting out of that rhythm just a little bit, out of that sync. And this is kind of somebody who's really, I don't want to say flailing at it, but they're kind of flailing, they're heaving at it, right? And then they charge, then they charge. We don't want to really do that. We want to be very controlled in those motions. It's just going to keep that boat a little more on line, a little more horizontal, moving straight down the course. And that's not the only reason, but things like this add up, and that's why one boat you'll see move out a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. Now, obviously, it's a long race, stuff can change, but I would, if I was this person, I would see video of this like me, and I'd say, okay, I really want to solidify that motion, get rid of all that extra extra movement that I'm having that could be upsetting the stability, and that's going to be a little disparate with my crewmates as I come up that recovery. All right, so as Princeton goes by us again, we're going to look at stroke seat one more time. Now this might be because he's fatigued, or it might be more of what he generally does, but look at how much opening with the body there is here, right? He's basically at his layback position here. Look at this. Still lots of leg to go. Let's compare him to other members of the crew, right? And even if we look here, look at the difference in angle, right? Look at here. This is pretty solid. Whoever's in 4 seat here, I think this is pretty solid position at this point of the drive, right? I would have maybe want him to hold those shoulders forward just a touch more through those last, but this is pretty good. This looks pretty solid. I'd try to straighten that out. I think he's sitting back on his sit bones here, actually, when I'm looking at him. So I'd get him over the sit bones a little bit more, but he holds those shoulders really well through that leg drive. Stroke seat needs to not open up so much. This is very upper body rowing. Put it on the legs. The legs have to take it. They have to be the driver. You've got lots of power there. Use it. Right? Give that upper body a break. And we saw earlier he was tense in the shoulders. Right? He was tense in the upper body. And this here could be part of that as well, because as you come down, you're going to get more and more fatigued by putting that weight on the upper body, and this might be a product of that. All right, Temple Challenge Cup, we're down the water. This is Cornell over here in the red. This is University of London close. We're looking at the position through the release. So look at this here. Are these shoulders moving back? Are we engaging these big, strong muscles here? No, not really. This is cutting that stroke short, right? There's still a lot of power to be gotten here. If we can get these big muscles activated, that's going to really send that kick, right? As the blade draws to the body, it's going to get a really, really nice kick. And we see that not just with him, but we see that with, a number of these people. I think we could get more length through the release. Not length by laying back, but length by drawing those shoulders past the body and getting more squeeze out of all these big back muscles. This guy here looks like he's doing a pretty decent job of it. But we absolutely see here how, say, look at this, right? We're not really seeing the shoulders drive back. This here's not bad. This again, we could have more layback, more engagement. Yeah, so I just think it's an area that they could access that's going to give them a little more send off that release. Right. So see, this is okay. This is okay, but it's not what we can see. If we see people who do it very, very well, right? This here is probably better, right? It's more back. It's more pushing it through. This is nice, though. We see the forearm angle here, the forearm angle here. They're matching the blades fairly decently. So I think that is pretty nice work on those angles. And we can see some of the blade work here. We're not seeing a lot of the same lines. Look at how these lines are very different. And obviously they've got the bucket rigging. But what we're looking at is sort of the space between, and do the angles match up? So look at this angle and look at this angle. If we continued them on to the edge of the screen, would they be equidistant out here versus what they are here? Or would they actually probably cross? They would probably cross. Right, so we end up with different angles, and when we have different angles, that means we're going to have different lengths of stroke and different force application. So we don't really want that. Whereas here we see pretty decent togetherness. Sometimes more, sometimes less, but overall these guys here are just a little bit sharper, I think. See again, just slight differences, right? Slight differences. Look at this. Here, etc. Here we see more uniformity. There we got a little bit of disunity. But that's what I say. Overall, though, these guys are just a little crisper. All right, so I'm going to stop it here. So there you go. The next race up is going to be Molsey versus this crew here, which I guess is a German crew. And we'll see that when I do my next video. All right, I think that's all.